Hello, BookTube. Well, it's the 1st of September, somehow. The Labor Day weekend is almost over. The world is about ready to start in on the month of September, which, anecdotally, if not meteorologically, is the start of a different season. It's the start of autumn. I doubt that it will feel that way, but I could be wrong. It looks, the long-range weather forecast seems to say that there will be cool weather ahead. Maybe it will stay that way. But September is also the start of a new month, and that calls for TBRs. I've been watching a lot of TBRs for people looking at their Septembers, juggling various BookTube events and whatnot. I thought we'd look at some books that are coming out in September that will be or have already been part of my TBR, because the bulk of my reading remit is new releases in the American book market. In the genres that interest me, that's a wide range of genres, and that's a lot of books. And I read in those genres even stuff that I don't expect to really like. I still read it in order to know what's out there. So I can say that I am reading, I've barely got my nose above water, I am reading a representative sampling of the books that are published in my time, in my country. I don't know that that's a worthy goal, but that is something that gives me satisfaction. So let's go through a few of these and see. The first one is an author needs no introduction. This is Dan Brown. The Secret of Secrets is his new book coming out in September. It's another Robert Langton adventure. This I mentioned the other day in talking about Scott Turow that no matter how many books he writes, no matter how good they are or how bad they are, he will forever be, for most people, an author of one book. And the same thing is true of Dan Brown, obviously. The same thing is true of Tom Clancy. It's not the worst fate that can befall an author to have that book. Most authors aren't the author of any book, no matter how many books they write. I usually don't get any enjoyment out of these books. They're usually not only fairly thin, but kind of dumb. And we'll see. Maybe this will be different. I know that thousands of people will be reading it, so I will give it a try. And then this next book, if I remember correctly, all of these are September releases. This is one that, despite all the best intentions of the Summer of Sport BookTube event, I probably would not have read this if it weren't for the author. The author has such incredible credit in the Bank of Steve that I would read anything that he wrote. And the author is Rick Bass, who I've mentioned on this channel many times from many different kinds of books. And this is his new book, Wrecking Ball, about Texas football in all its grubby, arm-breaking glory, I would gather. I don't know much about the current state of the mania for football in Texas. I was once very close to the state of football, to the culture of football in Texas, very close. During the time that I lived in Austin, I actually lived with a football player. And also an armadillo. That's a long story, though. I got a ringside seat, if you can say that about football, to the football culture of the time. But that was a long time ago. So has it changed in the era of steroids and dark money and corporate sponsorship? I have no idea. I don't know that the subject matter in this book will interest me, but I know it will be beautifully written. I know that I'll be glad I read it, which is no small thing. So, and this next one is by David Hackinson. This is Her Place in the Woods. This is a life, but what I believe is the first biography ever of the Minnesota nature writer Helen Hoover, whose books are so good. I never see them used. I would love to. I would love to find some of her books in the wild, as it were. That would be fantastic. But I have read at least, I think two at least of her big books that were so big that they were actually circulating in libraries in the Northeast when I read them. That was a long time ago. But how wonderful. I don't know anything about her life. I have no idea. I know the parts of her life I know from what I read in those books. Probably she was an activist, I think. At least she was an activist of some kind. This is going to be fascinating. Just fascinating. Just the kind of thing I love biographies for. Let's see here. Okay, then we have something by Simon Elliott. This is Roman history. This is ancient Roman history. This is Agricola in Scotland. And this is a story of the man that went out not only to rule the northern provinces, but also to subjugate them. So he was both the pinnacle of civilian authority and the pinnacle of military authority He's rather better documented than a lot of figures like this that we know, because a famous writer wrote about him, a famous writer and family member wrote about him, and we actually have that to go on. But there's also tons and tons of archaeological stuff. Come here. Come over here. Don't just stare, Frida. There we go. You want to sit next to me? There you go. There's tons and tons of archaeological stuff in Scotland and Wales. So we can very well reconstruct Agricola's career, and also his maneuverings in warfare on the northern edge of the world, for which he was honored by the Caesars, by Vespasian and his son, in a way that, they didn't honor everyone that way. This is a figure that I don't think I have ever read a standalone biography of him, except for the one that's famous from antiquity. So this will, again, be a learning experience, which is one of the things I like biographies for. I don't only read biographies of people where I know everything about them. Then this next one is by Eleanor Doty. This is Airs and Graces. It's a history of the modern British aristocracy. It seems like it's going to be a fairly meaty thing, but you never know. That's the risk you run with books like this. They can be Airhead. They can be Royalty Magazine. I've read Royalty Magazine every time it came out. Giant Magazine composed around nothing. Nothing at all. Historical articles, sure. But when you get to the current state of things, the authors are just guessing. They don't have any access. They don't know anything. It could be that this is the same. One of the first things I'll be checking about this book is where the author gets any of her information, where she learns anything about the modern British aristocracy. In other words, the thing that I get poked fun at by friends of mine when we go to bookstores, I've had friends over the decades say, you're the only person I know who picks up a book that's new to him and starts at the back instead of the front. Yeah, it's true. I'm checking the sources. I'm checking the notes and whatnot. And I'll probably be doing that here because I'll want to know, did you have access to any of these people? Did you go to any of their homes? Do you know what they think? Do you know how much money they make? Do you know how they've diversified their landed interests in the 21st century? What do you mean by modern? We'll see. It's a subject that endlessly interests me, so I would read it anyway. Then we have something by Robert Cowley. This is a big piece of military history for those of you who want to become World War I guys. This is The Killing Season. And it is about the first battle of, I call it Ypres, because the man who introduced me to it and who walked me through the grounds and who knew a fair bit about it, I think it would be safe to say he knew a fair bit about it, pronounced it that way. I've heard 5 other pronunciations, but it's that word. I learned to pronounce it as Ypres when I was on the ground there, when I was actually seeing it and feeling the soil and looking at the lay of the land and whatnot. But however you pronounce it, this was the site of many battles during World War I. And this book, I believe, concentrates on the first battle, in which 250,000 people died, maybe more than that, and which changed the nature of World War I. I think that would be safe to say, that the first Battle of Ypres changed the nature of World War I. Or at least, no, it changed the nature of World War I, because up until then, armies had been flying across the fields, they'd been slugging away at each other, it had looked more or less conventional. The battle to the sea, it looked more or less conventional. People taking large amounts of ground, people losing large amounts of ground, fairly standard conventional maneuvering. And this stopped all that. This introduced if you don't know anything about World War I and you think about it, first thing you're going to think about is trench warfare. The first thing you're going to think about is massive armies slugging away at each other for an inch of ground, behind redoubts and in trenches, behind barbed wire and machine gun nests. Well, that in the popular mind, that all starts here. The conventional idea of World War I stops and is replaced by a different kind of war. At enormous cost of blood. Enormous. And I haven't read a dedicated book on this battle in probably 30 years. So, great. Hope it's good. Hope it's good. Then we have something I've already praised on this channel. I've already read this. I'm definitely going to read it again. This is Seth Wickersham's book, American Kings, about American football and about the position of quarterback. What the quarterback has always been, what type of men have held that position, what it's been like, what its dynamic is on the field, and how that dynamic has changed. This is amazing. Just sports writing at its best. I know I've got a couple of items of sports writing here. Maybe that's a hangover from Summer of Sport. Or it could be just Summer of Sport. The BookTube event has acclimated me much more to not missing gems in the book publishing world. And if I were disposed against reading sports related literature, I would miss books like this. And that would be bad, because this is really good. One of the things on the list that I've read. Then we have something by Harriet Ricks. This is giving me a little willies. I'll read it with an open mind. I'm sure I'll learn a lot. This is The Genius of Trees: How They Mastered the Elements and Shaped the World. And the reason it's a fascinating subject, of course. But if trees weren't successful, they wouldn't be here. And you don't get to be successful by having a sinecure in nature. You get to be successful in nature by being adaptable, nimble, by being able to read and respond to the environment. And that is none of those things are things we think of when we think of trees. We think they're just there. But no, nothing in nature is just there. And the reason why this gives me the willies knowing that is because of Planta Sapiens, a book that I read a couple of years ago, about how there may be a plant style of intelligence totally alien to human intelligence, except in the very basics. That anything that's intelligent is going to want to preserve itself. Even things that aren't intelligent want to preserve itself. Knowingly want to preserve themselves. Come up with strategies to communicate with each other and preserve themselves. I said at the time, when I was reading and grappling with Planta Sapiens, I was thinking, if even half of this is true, then the whole vegan movement goes right out the window. Then humans can't eat anything except mega stuffed Oreos. Maybe I've been ahead of the curve all along. I worry the one thing that gives me the willies about this book, but in a good way, is how much more of that world is going to lay open to me. That trees talk with each other, assess the soil, calculate the change of the seasons instead of just being these rote biological machines that we tend to think of them as. Like I said, on many books on this list, I'm going to learn a lot from this book. Definitely. And then we can finish up. I don't know how many books this is. We can finish up. We can do a lot more books for September. We can do a lot more videos like this. We can finish up with a new collection. I forget who puts this out. I think it might be the Belknap Press of Harvard University Press. This is 6 Walks in the Fictional Woods. These are transcribed essays by Umberto Eco about the nature of fiction. I will gladly read this. There's no mention on the cover of who did the translation. So maybe these were done in English. I don't know. I don't actually know enough about Umberto Eco to know if he could give a lecture in English. Probably. Jason Harrigan would know. I don't. But anyway, I worry about this too for a far more rhetorical reason. Umberto Eco, like a lot of people who get success with their first time at bat, he could be a little windy on subjects like this. Just a bit. It can be just a bit windy on subjects like this. He sometimes loses me. And asking him to give a lecture on the nature of fiction, that could be deadly. We shall see. We shall see. I will give it a try. But I don't know. I will hope for this book to please me rather than expecting that it does. And there you go. There's just a quick September TBR. One of many. We can do a few more videos like this. But I'm going to wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.